topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending, where we believe in a better life through better business. Here, we help you aspire to greatness, achieve your goals, and ascend to new heights. Whether you're starting, scaling, or exiting, we're here to empower you with inspiring stories, enlightening discussions, and transformative resources to help you accelerate your success. Now, it's time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending, and we've got a very special guest here today that I'm really excited to bring on. I know a lot of folks have thought about maybe doing their own podcast, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know necessarily where to start, and it seems easy enough just to have a conversation, but I don't know, So I wanted to hopefully empower you with our guest today, but I also wanted to remind you that this show is for you, is about you. We do actually have, when we're live, we do have an actual chat that you can get involved with. And of course, you can always email me at matt@timeforsuccess. Let me try that again. matt@timeforsuccess.io. And I'm always happy to help out the community, as well as we're building a community. We're actually going ahead and releasing a special membership level where you will get weekly coaching, as well as, and it's group coaching, just so you know, weekly group coaching, as well as a online academy, the $1 Million Academy, that has marketing, sales, and really everything you need to have that foundation to build that $1 million business, even some financial training. So if you're interested in getting connected with us and actually join the community where you actually have live weekly group coaching, we would love to have you. So just email me at matt@timeforsuccess.io. So getting back to our guest, we have somebody who has been in the podcasting arena for, since 2005. So I'm almost kind of scared to have him on here, because I mean he's a master at this point, and I'm still a neophyte, but I'm honored that he would come on my show as well. So Mike Wilkerson of Two Nice Guys Talking, we're going to bring him on to the studio now. All right, Mike.
Matt, how's it going?
It's great, man. Oh, I guess it's just two guys talking, but you're such a nice guy that I just threw the nice word in there. I'm sorry.
It really depends on the program on my network over at twoguystalking.com, whether they're nice or not.
Nice or naughty. Two nice or naughty guys talking. All right. That's fair. Well, today we were going to try to cover how to have those aha moments. Not IHOP moments. That's different. But I don't know, a podcast at IHOP, that might not be so bad. I mean, they've got the hot sauces one, right? But before we dig too deeply into that, though, I'd love for people to know more about you and your background and where you come from. So, Mike, tell us a little bit more about 2005. I mean, that was podcasting before podcasting was cool, man.
Yeah, the sweet irony of 2005 is that a former coworker of mine and I, we started a program that was just talking about life, politics, the things inside the news stream that kind of tripped our triggers. We would literally take our lunch break and we would head to my house and we would have these discussions during lunch break and then head back. It was a ton of fun. And inside of those discussions, we got latched on to talking about a television show called 24 on Fox. And ironically, our lunch hours started to embiggen and get larger and larger and larger. So much so that we're like, I think we might need to stop talking about 24 so much, or we need to have just a program that's dedicated to 24. And so we did that. And we started the 24 podcast. And wow. The 24 podcast turned into this giant engine that especially after a couple of years, it started to propel enough traffic that I just started a network of let's make a series of programs that dedicate themselves towards reviewing television and entertainment. And that was in 2006 and 7. I brought on my first sponsor for that program. That was Sprint, the little tiny telecommunications company.
Really?
And the rest is history. We're now into our 18th year inside of podcasting. I now help people find their light bulb moments inside of their lives, their passions, but most importantly, their business expertises. And we bring those stories and those perspectives into podcasting, whether it be video stuffs or audio stuffs. And I have a service and a piece of my engine that helps people do all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is it like I mean some people have that struggle of finding their voice, if you will. So is that aha moment kind of related to kind of maybe finding their voice and maybe what it is that they can talk about that adds value that people would be interested in?
It's a little bit more fundamental than that.
Okay.
Essentially, I I always tell people you have stories and you have skill sets that no one else has. Those are innately yours, and there is a way to help convey those, whether it be in video or audio. There's a way to showcase all of it, and that's what I'm going to help you do. We have many people that come to me that don't feel comfortable on a microphone at all. What I always tell people is like, okay, well, but you have to, the services that you've been offering through your business, how are you offering those if you're not talking to people, right? That's usually when they'll have their own little light bulb moment of, you know what, you're absolutely right. And then it's just a matter of getting them past them, sitting in front of a microphone or even knowing that a microphone is there. And Matt, you had the benefit of coming to my studio recently. And one of the things I always try to explain to people is I just want you to come in, I want you to speak, and then I want you to leave.
Yeah, make it easy. Make it easy.
Yeah.
Just have a
And
conversation.
the rest of whatever you don't want to do or you don't think you have the technological expertise to jump into and do, I'll help that all get done. I just want you to come and make the content.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, the stories and the skill sets, I'm a pretty good actor. I'm a professional actor, but I can't make up the stories and the skill sets. And
Right.
so I need you to come in and do that part.
So how is it like for somebody who might be a little bit, I mean, because I was a little trepidatious, if you will. I whenever I first started, I wasn't really quite sure if I could figure out the words. And I mean, I'm sometimes the kind of person, well, if I'm not sure if I can do it, then well, I'm going to go and try to do it and figure it out. So I didn't necessarily let it stop me, but I still had a little bit of anxiety, maybe even fear around it. Fortunately, I kind of got started by just being able to join into a radio TV show on a small station, and I was able to jump in, and it kind of helped me just kind of get a little bit of my feet wet into it. But if somebody hasn't done it at all, um, you know, is it good for them to maybe go and try to visit other podcasts and maybe then get kind of a feel for it, like sitting in the hot seat a little bit, or what else would you recommend?
No question. The way that I always try to, I'll use the words rope people into podcasting. I just have them come on to talk about a movie they love. I go like Matt, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, what's my favorite movie? I know I'm oh, I really like the one, with Jet Li. Big fan of that one. And
Excellent. And
yeah,
believe it
yeah,
or not, there is a giant community around Jet Li movie fans. And so typically what I will do is I will bring people in to do what's called a perspective review of, in this case, The One. And what we'll do is we'll look at the movie through the cone of time. And I will go and grab somebody that has a zealous interest in whatever the movie is, in this case, again, The One, and you and I will run through it. The segments inside of the perspective review programs are the hype. So what do you remember from when it first came out, however old you were when it came out? Do you remember where you saw it? Do you remember what the tickets cost? Do you remember the trailer that you saw about it? We'll talk about those things inside the hype segment. Then we talk about the money, and the money is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to talk about how much money that film has made over time. How much did it make when it came out? How much has it made over the period of DVD and streaming and whatever else in regard to collecting money? How much money has it made? Then we're going to talk about what's good inside the movie. Then we're going to talk about what's not so good inside the movie, the bads. Then there's always a push to break. We come back and then we jump through where it's gone as a franchise, which the one didn't have a sequel or a follow-up really. And then we give it a rating. Traditionally, the ratings start at 7 as an average. The numbers go up with positives, the numbers go down with negatives, and there's never any half numbers. It's always whole numbers. And what I've given you there is a really comfortable platform for people to talk about things they really, really like. And that usually sets the hook in either direction, frankly. Because I've had people that come on for perspective reviews and they just got a taste of it. And you know what? Wasn't really for them, because either the mic was scary or they weren't comfortable sharing their own opinions. And that's what I always try to tell people is podcasting is just capture perspective. And it's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's not. I know that's strange, especially in business, to go, wait a minute, this is supposed to be for everybody. You're supposed to go and scrape every cent of money you can with this, right? No. If these wheels do not go on your feet and you can't run with them, then maybe this just isn't for you. But for most people, you can at least tell one story. For most people, they have a favorite movie. For most people, they have a skill set that wouldn't it be cool if you could convey that skill set, and then it gloms onto other people that have a like interest. And so between that series of chemistry sets, I can find a lot of people that have interest, but there are those people out there, Matt, that just, they're not built for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. Of course, nothing is for everybody, and not everybody's for everything. Right. So that makes total sense. But how does fun, so going back to this aha moment, right? I mean, you gave a fantastic outline, I think, for being able to structure, and I think that probably helps, being able to have some sort of structure that you can see, that outline where you kind of know where that conversation is going, that can really help folks if they are a little bit concerned. But how do you, I mean, even within a structure like that, right? You gave a certain outline. How do you sneak in that aha moment in there? Like, where do you find that?
Well, what I love that we're talking about here and focusing on is the light bulb moment that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Inside of every program, especially the ones that I'm either the host or participating in, especially when I go on ones like yours, I always try to make sure that there is at least one thing that somebody learns about what we're talking about, because that's education. And that's what I've dedicated to myself over the years, is that everything you listen to, everything that I do, you will learn something that you did not know before you came and listened. It's also one of the requirements of anything inside of my Two Guys Talking podcast network over at twoguystalking.com, is that you must have a light bulb moment inside of every episode. It doesn't have to be 500 light bulb moments inside each episode, but it has to have at least one. There has to be something that you're offering inside of there, or that the guest that's coming in, or that you yourself discover while you're conveying the episode. There must be at least one light bulb moment, because that's the ticket to get in, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. So basically that's like part of your application process, effectively. That, okay,
no question.
You have to be able to provide some sort of aha moment, something that really helps change maybe somebody's perspective, or maybe helps hit them with some knowledge that they didn't know that they needed.
Without question, my most recent editing customer are 3 neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons from the University of California, San Francisco. And their perspective on making a podcast was, well, we're just going to talk and we're going to record the episode, and then we're going to push the episode out, right? And yeah, you kind of got the mechanics part down, but what are you conveying to people that is going to be the light bulb moment? Like, you have doctors that listen to this program. What are you going to be telling those doctors that is a light bulb moment? Mm-hmm. And the silence that we have here inside both this program and this recording of this program is exactly what I got from them, because they've never thought of that. They're like, well, what do you mean? We're just going to talk and then it's going to be done, right? Well, no, it's not going to be done. There has to be value. And the value is that even if you're talking to other doctors or talking about whatever you're doing, other doctors or people that listen to this program, they too have to have at least one light bulb moment. Otherwise, why are they listening? If they already know everything that you're going to talk about, why are they listening?
Now, I
And
would
I
imagine.
find
Oh,
that
go ahead.
a lot of people don't ever think about that. They just think, well, I'm going to be speaking and everyone will listen and everyone will love everything and yay. And that's not how podcasting, at least in my opinion, is supposed to work. There's supposed to be some value that's conveyed, because if you're conveying value and ongoing value, whatever it is, across whatever skill sets or perspectives or opinions, as long as you're giving some value, even if you don't agree with it, as long as there's value in it, people will come back to your program. No question. The podcast that I tend to jump in on, again, even if I don't agree with some of the content, there's something that I learned from that allows me to then think about something else that gives me a different track that I didn't have before I got there. That's the point.
Hmm. I mean, and I think being open to new perspectives is key. I mean, that's why I listen to a lot of different podcasts, just hearing new perspectives on ideas and concepts that I didn't necessarily think about before, or maybe I kind of kicked around, but never really went into depth. And it's really just great being able to see how different people view the world. And so I do imagine though that there is a balance. I mean, from what I've seen, and there are some people who just want to kind of educate the entire time. It's like, they think they're up here as a college professor and they're about to lecture and and let me just, fill your brains with knowledge. But is there a risk of trying to provide like too much value? I mean, trying to smack people
Yeah.
in the head with too much knowledge?
No question. And one of the guiding elements inside of all the podcasts, and again, this is since from day one. Uh, my original co-host and I, and then every other co-host that I spill onto over the course of my podcast, we use something called the skeleton. And the
Mhm.
skeleton is essentially the acronym for, or not the acronym, but the synonym for outline. There is an outline for every program that we have, but it's just an outline. There is not a script. There is not a 50-point bullet point with paragraphs of what it is we're going to talk about. And that's incredibly important, because the instant that somebody detects that you are starting to read from something, the game is up. The show is over, and they will click off your program instantaneously. There has to be an element of spontaneity to it. I recently went on a hunting expedition for role players for a series of crisis negotiation training systems that I'm building with a local police officer for a new business that we're making. And I went to improv comedy first off. And the reason I went to improv comedy is not because I want a bunch of people that can make us laugh. It's because they think really, really well on their feet really, really quickly. And I will tell you that is one of the magic elixirs, that when you can find people that are quick on their feet, I find that they make excellent, excellent podcast candidates.
Oh yeah.
They have a lot of the chemistry set that I not only like to work with, but they tend to understand concepts that come fast and furious far quicker than other people do, just because of what they're in.
Well, yeah. I mean, and they naturally have to look for the and then. So they have to be able to kind of build upon whatever is being discussed or happening. And I mean, I've done a little bit of improv, and mainly in high school, maybe a little bit in college too, just for some fun. But yeah, I mean, you have to kind of have that mentality of, all right, we need to figure out where this is going and build upon each other. So now,
There
what
are a bunch of
Oh, go ahead.
exercises inside of something locally called comedy sports. And I've met with the local St. Louis based comedy sports leader. And he's a great dude. And I love what they're building and the games that happen inside of what is called comedy sports. For those of you that don't know anything about that, we'll be sure to provide links inside of whatever the show notes looks like for this episode. Comedy sports is wonderful because it's a series of brain teasing games between two teams or a group of essentially improv comedy participants. And it electrifies your brain. If your brain is not used to thinking in that manner, you will instantly be electrified by what happens inside of those exercises. And over time, as your brain continues to participate inside of those things, it instantly opens up these avenues inside of your brain that you would have never thought of before. Again, the process is called comedy sports. It's something that originated in one of my hometowns of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it continues to this day to provide really great platforms for people of every single ilk, especially the ones that just want to get started because you don't know where to start. It's an excellent place where you can have these little seed brain moments to start analyzing how your brain thinks, but more importantly, how you can interact with other people to help make all the parts of it work. It's why I love it so much.
Oh, I love that too. And as you're kind of talking about that, I'm thinking a little bit too about how, I mean, one of the reasons that I enjoy this is because, I mean, I just love digging in deeper um, and really getting to the heart of things in kind of an extemporaneous way, just real life discussion. And I mean, it does kind of, mimic in some ways, some of the ways that I have to dig a little bit deeper with clients as a business coach. I have to be able to kind of draw out more of their story. I mean, when they're having a vision discussion, right? A lot of people have a difficult time putting some words on the board for that, some imagery up there, and so I have to try to draw that story out. Or if I'm trying to coach somebody on leadership, even then, it's kind of a very basic element, I guess, of really like communication and trying to understand other people and help them. I don't know, in some ways, even understand themselves. So I don't know. It's something that just kind of popped. That was maybe my aha moment, I guess, maybe for just kind of thinking about that. So, so
Yeah,
thanks for that, man.
finding the pieces of chemistry set inside of either your professional life or a more personal side of your life that you can then convey into a podcast form. It's kind of
Mhm.
what I built my entire business on over the course of 18 years. Uh,
Yeah.
Somewhere inside of the conversations I have with people, whether they're coming in to talk about feature films or streaming media or television shows or whatever it is, somewhere in there, there is a series of chemistry that I'm able to latch onto and then squeeze out the pieces that either they or I or collectively we hadn't really thought about previously, conveying that to the audience and then literally looking into the proverbial camera and saying, hey, you know what? Tony's got a great perspective on this. I've got something that's completely different, but you know what? We want to know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
That is a piece of the chemistry set of everything that I try to build inside of when I help people podcast, because that's what it's about. It's about conveying the perspectives of the people that are in front of the microphones, but more importantly, interacting with the people that are listening either at the time, like we are here live, or later on, which is also a piece of, I think, the chemistry set of podcasting that's almost completely missing still these many years later, is the value of how something that is captured can have value later.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I made up something like the Perspective Review series, because even to this day, I can convey the perspective reviews about something that's new in the news stream, but something that we recorded decades ago. And it still has value because we're asking the questions about the same things we were asking then that are even more important now because everybody wants to talk about something right now. But if we were asking the same questions then, I can still run that content and get people to chime in. It happens. It happens every month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of it has long lasting, I guess, value as well. So I mean, some of these insights that you're trying to get now, I do run into it from time to time, though, and it's not very often. Most of the time, people get pretty comfortable. But have you ever found that maybe the conversation isn't quite going, the direction that you thought it was, and you kind of need to bring it back? How do you do that in a natural way to turn it back and bring it around?
One of my favorite samples, and I'm gonna vanilla it as much as I can so as to not out the person that was on as a guest that it really didn't work out, but it's a great story. Um, there was a program that was captured in late 2014. We were talking about a huge, giant feature film that everybody knows the title of, and everybody has seen at least once, and it's a giant piece of pinnacle moviedom. And we brought on a dude that had originally written stories that eventually got smushed into the pieces parts of what this giant feature film was. I mean, it's a huge thing. And I had tethers to him because of where I was from and where I went to high school. And it was great. I could not believe we got him as a guest. And we started. My co-host is excited. This guest is excited. I'm excited. It's electric. It's electric. Awesome. Love it. Right? Perfect. And as we started going through, there was a piece of the chemistry set that was originally electric that just wasn't firing on all thrusters. I couldn't quite explain it. And we got to the break where during every program, we always take a break, and then we're later on inserting the commercials of whomever's sponsoring the program or our own services, whatever it is. And we got to the break, and I go, so insert name. Is everything going okay? And he goes, yeah, man, I'm having a great time. This is a superb program. I got to admit, though, that after we started, I started drinking.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. Well, let's have some water. And
Coffee,
come on. We'll come on back in from break here in a couple minutes. We're going to run to the restroom real quick, and we'll come right back in. Well, and so we did. So we finished out the program, and unfortunately, we didn't use any of it.
Oh man!
Because
what a shame.
What are we going to do with that exactly? And the answer is I planned that was actually one of the first crossover programs I had between my whatcopswatch.com program and the Two Guys Talking Perspective Review series. It worked out great with what we had to come up with a backup. It's cool. It's a great show. But You know what it's not? It's not what I had originally dreamed of. And I know that guest, it certainly was not what he was dreaming of, nor my co-host.
Right.
And our hopes were just dashed because the front end of it was really, really good, but you could just literally smell the declining ability of this person to jump in and be on all thrusters. It was devastating. It's not actually the answer you're looking for, but it's a good story and it's a good cautionary tale because you're going to get those people. It's also one of the pieces why I love podcasting, because I would have never guessed that.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a million years would I have guessed that would have been the outcome of this huge, giant pillar of feature film review inside of the Perspective Review Cone. If you'd have told me that, I'm like, no, that's never going to happen. It happened.
Right. Right. Well, you never know what somebody's going through. I mean, that's part of the beauty, but also part of the risk, I guess, of podcasting is that you get those live, those special moments, those unique moments that are captured in that discussion, that's brought out in a conversational way that wouldn't just come out if somebody was just trying to present the notes. But at the same time, if somebody's having a tough day or maybe a little anxious and they try to self-medicate, things could go downhill pretty rapidly.
Yeah, that's the bad end of that spectrum. On the other end is one of my favorite adult life bulb moments of my life, really. In 2000, end of 2009-ish into 2010, I started bringing on law enforcement representatives to talk about the things that we were seeing on television and say, okay, so is this real? Like, is this how it processes, or is this just kind of a bunch of Hollywood BS? And I got so much great feedback about that. I started thinking, what we need to do is we need to make a program that's dedicated to something like that. And so what I made was something called whatcopswatch.com. It's one of our largest programs currently. You can find more about it over at whatcopswatch.com. Wow. And on that program, I have a local police chief. His name is Christy Giuseppe. And Chris and we invite other police officers and people inside of law enforcement to come on and talk about streaming media, television programming, and feature films, and literally tell you what's real and what's a bunch of Hollywood BS, and then everything in between. It's super commonsensical. We go and we grab things that I love, but more importantly, that the people coming on love. Just like I asked you about your favorite movie, we do that same thing with police representatives from all over. And that's the great piece of it, is that because they come on, and while they are a member of law enforcement, they come on and they talk about the things that they have a passion about or that they loved as a kid. And so by doing that, what we're doing is we're allowing you to see that the people behind the badge with a gun belt and perhaps a hat or a police car, well, they're just people too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's why it's become one of my favorite passion projects of all time. Anyway, to go back to the point here is that the first episode, Chris came on, and we were talking about one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Mystic River, directed by Clint Eastwood. It's an incredibly touching movie, mostly because it's about the city of Boston, where I have lots of family tether. It's a very dark movie, but it's an incredibly well acted movie. It's a very moving movie. And I was so excited about it that, oh my God, we're gonna have real cops on to talk about this film. It's gonna be awesome. And so we start launching into the program, and I go, so Chris, do you remember this movie? And he's like, I didn't really remember it when I started watching it, but then I got into it and I remembered it. I think I saw it on VHS. So I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on VHS. I'm like, oh, okay, well, great. And as we started getting into it, I'm like, okay, not what I was looking for on the front end, but that's okay. Let's keep going. And I started talking about it, and just that we get this quick snapshot on the front of every perspective review. And I told them kind of the little impassioned speech that I just gave you and your viewership. And Chris looks directly at me and he goes, yeah, after I remember seeing this movie before, this isn't where I would go for entertainment. And I kind of, thankfully our reviews are all, our programs, it's all edited. So I can remove all of the kind of moments that are all inside of the programming if I need to.
Right.
And I go, okay, I wouldn't have anticipated that, but tell me more. And so he lays on me the most killer light bulb moment of my adult life. He goes, well, here's the thing. The acting in this movie is spectacular. The direction is wonderful. I mean, it's a great looking movie.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that if I want to learn more about the topics that I see inside of this movie, I'll just go to work. And I'd never thought of that. Not in a million years would I go, oh my God, he's right. If he wants to know about child abduction, if he wants to know about scenarios where people don't talk to the police, if you want to talk about not talked about crime in a major metropolitan city, you know what? He can just go to work. And so it's not where he's going to go for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our very first program. And that's when I knew I'd latched onto something really special, because him being willing to just lay it on the table like that was an incredible light bulb moment, both for he and I as co-hosts. And we've now been doing that for a decade.
Wow.
It's why it's such a passion project for me. It allows me to meet so many different people of skill sets that I not only had not thought about, but I'd never thought about what they think about what we're talking about. It's also why when I ask police officers from all over, what's your favorite movie? Most people don't understand this, but it's not usually something involving the police or law or crime.
Right. They try to get away from that.
Go to work for all that shit, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that whatcopswatch.com is giving value not only to members of law enforcement as an outlet to convey what they're feeling and think, but it's also a wonderful perspective view for people that either don't know cops or think they know cops. You don't know cops. Why don't you go listen to them on my program quick? And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and I think that goes back to like just a different perspective that you didn't even necessarily see coming, but that's the beauty of having somebody else on the program that might surprise you and just dig deeper in the conversation. But then also you kind of poked in an area where you sense some sort of discomfort, but you're able to draw it out in a way that didn't make him feel bad for not enjoying the movie or something like that, but was able to actually allow him to express something else that he was excited about and share, why there wasn't necessarily that shared view on that movie.
The zeal. Why don't you have the zeal? Well,
because
I can just go to work and experience all of it. I don't have to see the movie. It was just flabbergasting. I can't believe it happened, but it did. And I'm so I'm so lucky that it did happen.
Yeah. Well,
And it's
I
what
think that's
I
the
hope
beauty.
a lot of people get from whatcopswatch.com content.
Yeah.
It's you're gonna find I guarantee you too will find something inside of every single episode we've got.
Yeah.
Again, over at whatcopswatch.com about that program. It's magical. What we've got coming up inside of that program is our very first review of a spaghetti western. There's a Canadian crisis negotiator named Sean Pollock who's going to be on our program in the coming month here, and dimes and dollars, he is a giant spaghetti western fan. And I've never done anything about spaghetti westerns except, of course, talk about several different Clint Eastwood movies. But none of the movies that we've talked about so far starred Clint Eastwood as the spaghetti western hero / anti-hero. And that's coming up at whatcopswatch.com. Very exciting.
There's a lot of Eastwood movies though where he's like a sheriff or something, isn't there? So that's still.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's a little bit of a different take though on law enforcement, right? Like,
Oh, yeah. Well, frankly, it doesn't have a whole lot to do with law enforcement at all. In fact, most of the spaghetti western stuffs, there's not a whole lot of really great law going on inside of any of those movies.
Kind of taking law into your own hands kind of thing,
Yes.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's why I'm really excited about talking about it, because it's not like, is that the first thing you would think of when you go, hey, Mr. Cop, insert wherever they're from. Well, what is your favorite movie? Well, I like movies about people that get revenge.
Right.
That would not be the first thing that I would think comes out of people's mouths, but there it is, right?
Yeah.
And that's why people tune in. And that's what's going to be really exciting about it.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure cops see a lot of stuff where they probably can understand how somebody would seek revenge in that. So, I certainly can't, fault them for that. But yeah, no, that should be an exciting episode. So real quick, as we're kind of wrapping up here over the next few minutes, what are like all of your shows that you're actually currently producing, or at least, some of the top ones that people might want to tune into?
Yeah. What Cops Watch is definitely on top of the totem pole currently. Again, that kind of myth busting, cop myth busting, action busting. Action busting is the segment I called it inside of our 24podcast.com effort. Bringing in law enforcement to action bust what you see inside of modern day entertainment. That's huge. A lot of people think they know everything about what they see on television. And I got to tell you, it's a lot more mundane than what most people see. You might see a really active or action-packed YouTube badge cam video, and you're going to see them. They're definitely out there. But does that translate to what you see inside of modern day media? It doesn't. The vast majority of policing and stuff that happens inside of policedom is very mundane and kind of running through the wicket of these things we have to do to get the solution. And so again, to go back to crisis negotiation is really poorly depicted in just about every single movie out there. Crisis negotiation is simply amping things down and slowing down the process of what people are thinking. In this case, in most cases with crisis negotiation, it's somebody that is really amped up for insert whatever the reason is, but it's just about slowing that down. And unfortunately, inside of modern day entertainment, that's not the recipe for kick-ass box office.
Of course, naturally. No, you definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, what Cops Watch is definitely on top of the totem. Yeah, it's definitely on top of the totem pole. Next in is our perspective reviews, because we can go across whatever we want to. It's just a matter of what Mike Wilkerson brain is thinking or wanting to talk about or review. It's almost always going to be something that's older, or what I always try to do is, the longer it can be, the vast majority of people are not going to understand why that movie matters now until you go and talk about it. And then you start to see these really interesting things that happen inside the review. I can remember when somebody said, well, wait a minute, that movie comes out next week. You're not going to review that movie? And I'm like, oh, yeah, we're going to get to it eventually. But we're not going to talk about it the day before the movie comes out. And we're definitely not going to talk about it the week after the movie comes out. There's got to be a period of time so we can let that thing ruminate and germinate and, marinate in its juice, so we can see what's going to happen with it over time. One of the best samples of that is going back to look at the Star Wars movies. Dude, Star Wars is something completely different right now than it was the 40 plus years ago that it originally came out. And so us looking at what happened with Ahsoka, the newest series that was released on Disney Plus, we're going to get to that, but we're not going to get to it for a good long time because you need to let that one marinate a lot. There's a whole lot going on in that show that I know a lot of people that are the fans of that original film, they're not really interested in. And so are we just going to bash it for an hour and a half? I know I don't want to listen to that. Do you?
Right,
so we'll
right.
let that one ruminate and see what happens as other stuff comes out so we can get a different waft of what's coming off of that show.
Awesome.
But going back to perspective reviews, we'll run anything through the gauntlet there. And again, it's the greatest piece of what I have as to bring someone in that might want a podcast. Let's talk about your favorite movie. Let's talk about your favorite television series. And you can see and taste that zeal when people come on to talk about those things. And that's why it matters.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And now, where can somebody go to find out more information? Do you have like a website that lists all of your different shows, or like where is that?
I do. The best way to do that, and then to also get into, if you too are interested in podcasting, regardless of whether you've got a program or you're thinking about starting one, or you maybe want to think about talking about starting one, you can do all that over at twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2guystalking.com. That bottom button on that page is actually going to give you the whole listing of my existing show stuffs, but then also 18 years of library that you can probe into and find something that you have a flavor or interest in.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate your time today. And hopefully, if anybody's out there thinking about starting a podcast, hopefully that was some helpful information for maybe how to structure it, maybe how to draw some of those, like you said, the aha moments that people are really looking for. Those candid, that just kind of comes out just through that discussion, and the different perspective that maybe gets you to shift perspective on some things, right? So
No question. I always try to tell people I am a light bulb hunter. Sounds goofy inside of a networking meeting or when I'm talking to somebody new, but after you've just listened to what I said, I hunt light bulb moments for a living.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's where it becomes the most fun, I think. Whenever we really just bring that to our audience, to our network here. So, well, thanks again, Mike, and thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Ascending. We appreciate you being with us, and remember, we're here to help bring you the information, tools, ideas to help you aspire and to ascend and continue to grow and scale your business to new heights. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community are depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level, and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business and life of your dreams.